Hey boys and girls, here's a reading of your story Coming to America. The United States of America has long been the world's chief receiving nation for immigrants. An immigrant is a person who leaves his or her country to settle and live in another country. Over the years, many millions of people have uprooted and left family and friends to move to America. Some felt forced to leave because they feared for their lives due to dangers present in their home countries. For example, many immigrants left countries that were at war or that didn't give them the freedom to practice their faith. Immigrants also left their native lands if they couldn't find enough work or enough food to live. Whatever the reason, immigrants usually had to sacrifice, that means give up, a life that is familiar for one that is unknown. The United States was founded by immigrants. From the 1600s through 1775, European colonists settled in the land that is now the United States. Most of these immigrants were from England. Others arrived from France, Germany, Ireland, Scotland, and Spain. Many of these colonists came here looking for economic opportunity. That means they wanted jobs and money. They wanted better land to farm or better work. Others came to escape religious persecution. Some were even convicts brought over from English jails. West Africans also immigrated to the American colonies, but they came against their will. They were captured, sold into slavery, and shipped to the colonies. Since the United States was established in the late 1700s, it has seen three waves of immigration. The first wave of American immigration took place from 1820 to 1870. Over 7 million people made the voyage to America, mostly from Northern and Western Europe. About a third of these immigrants were Irish people trying to escape a famine that plagued Ireland in the mid-1840s. So that means that group of people was coming because they didn't have any food. Another third of the immigrants from the wave were German. The Chinese also began to immigrate to America during this time. They got word of the gold rush in California. They came to work in the mines and get rich. This flood of immigrants wasn't always welcomed by those already in America. Some feared these newcomers would take away their jobs. Others didn't like the politics, customs, and or religions the new immigrants brought with them. For example, many Irish people were discriminated against for being Roman Catholic. The Chinese also suffered greatly from discrimination. The next wave of U.S. immigration was by far the greatest. It started in 1881 and ended in 1920. Over 23 million people immigrated to the United States during this period, most of whom came from Southern and Eastern Europe. But by this time, anti-immigration sentiments had become so strong that a growing number of people demanded laws to make it harder for foreigners to become American citizens. In 1875, Congress passed its first immigration law intended to limit immigration. It kept people who were viewed as undesirable out, including convicts. In 1882, Congress also passed the Chinese Exclusion Act. It prohibited Chinese workers from coming to the United States. A few years later, other laws were passed. One required adult immigrants to have literacy skills. Another limited the number of immigrants from countries outside the Western Hemisphere. However, one of the greatest blows to immigration was the Great Depression of the 1930s. Immigration sharply declined. In fact, there were more people leaving America than coming to America during this time. The third wave of immigration began in 1965 and continues today. Most immigrants in this wave have come from Asian countries as well as South American countries, Caribbean countries, and Mexico. A large number of these immigrants has settled in the East and Midwest. However, many others have moved to California. Most immigrants have come to America with the hope of building a better life. However, they were sometimes met with hatred by the people already living in the country who feared the economic and cultural impacts of these newcomers. While the discrimination and economic downfall of the Great Depression had a negative effect on immigration, American immigration has managed to survive. Your next story is Coming to the USA. This picture is of a Somali refugee camp. When civil war broke out in Somalia, these sisters left their home and came to the United States. The Ibrahim sisters, Nemo and Fadumo, came to the United States in 2000. They were born in Somalia, a country in Africa. While they were still very young, civil war and famine came to Somalia. More than 1 million Somalis were in danger of starving. They had to escape. Fadumu was 5 years old when her family left Somalia. I remember the house we used to live in and how we used to cook and how it was so different than here, said Fadumu. When they fled their home country, the Ibrahim family had nowhere to go, nowhere to turn. They were refugees. For many years they didn't have a home. They lived in camps in Africa. But thanks to the International Rescue Committee, they were able to move to Boston, Massachusetts. Nemo and her sister went to high school in Boston. Their father got a job and their mother was taking care of 2 new babies. They made a brand new start. It wasn't easy. Nemo said that fitting into her new home and learning a new language were difficult at first. Some of you could make a connection there. There are a lot of nice people, and there are a lot of cruel people, she said. It took me 2 years to get used to everything and everyone. There were many good things as well. Fadumu said that she liked the mix of different kinds of religion and culture in Boston. When they were in high school, both Nemo and Fadumu wanted to become doctors and go back to Somalia to try to help people. I miss my grandmother and my family in Somalia, said Nemo. All right, and down here, I want to draw your attention to refugees. Those are people who leave their country to escape danger. So not just immigrants who are looking for a better life, but people who are actually scared that they might die for some reason in their country.